Have you ever thought about starting a business? Well, apparently we are in an entrepreneurial gold rush. Today's conversation is with Alex. Alex is a social entrepreneur in Cambridgeshire. Alex tells us all about his area of expertise, entrepreneurship, his very inspiring career journey, and we talk about his great advice too. We also talk about why the future of entrepreneurship is social entrepreneurship, the power of self-awareness and understanding yourself, navigating overwhelm and burnout. We talk about the importance of knowing and upholding your values, and we talk about embracing failure with resilience and tenacity. So if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship, then join us in today's conversation. Alex and I look forward to seeing you there. Alex, hello, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, okay. How about we get started by you telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for?
Yeah, sure. So as you say, Alex Hughes. So I'm an entrepreneur. I would describe myself as a social entrepreneur. Using entrepreneurship for social good. And I've been doing this now it feels like my whole life's been building towards doing this, but officially I've been self-employed and an entrepreneur for 8 years now. So various different projects based over in St Neots in Cambridgeshire. We got a hub where I'm recording this from, and that's kind of the epicenter of all of our businesses. And we operate across the east of England, working with 16 to 24-year-olds to help them start their own businesses.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, I can't wait to deep dive into that in a bit, Alex. But this is a podcast, so I think you like podcasts. So how about you tell us what you're enjoying right now?
So my favorite podcast of all time, actually, is a podcast called My First Million. So guys called Sam Parr and Shyam Puri over in America. It started out with just two guys that were talking about getting guests on to say, like, how did you make your first million, whether it be in sales or in profit? And it's expanded and expanded over the years. And I'm absolutely obsessed with it. It's like, it's just like, if you're into like new ideas, tech, entrepreneurship, then My First Million is like the go-to one. Yeah.
It's on my automatic downloads too. So I'm a good fan, a great fan of that one too. Thanks for sharing, Alex. Okay, so entrepreneur, so many misconceptions about what we do in the world. So I'd love for you, Alex, to explain what an entrepreneur is in your language, first of all.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's actually one of the biggest challenges with the word. You know, even us entrepreneurs sometimes struggle to embrace it as a thing. But essentially, for me, I see an entrepreneur as someone who can take an idea and turn it into value. And value is a perception of yourself and also the market. So, me personally, I see entrepreneurship as a form of creativity. You know, it's that idea to value. There's a whole lot in between that. So for me, it's like an ultimate form of creativity. It's a discipline. It's a way of life. It's a way of thinking. So more so a personality and behavior traits that come with it, more so than the role itself. There's no kind of description role for an entrepreneur. But ultimately the market decides what you are.
Yeah. Thank you. And Alex, what do your friends and family who are perhaps not so familiar with entrepreneurship, what do they think you're doing all day?
They think I'm just on social media all day, every day, and that's all I do. And to be fair, if you follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram, then I am pretty active on there. But the reality of that is I'm on there for like an hour and a half a day. But yeah, honestly, most of them just don't even know anymore. They just don't get it. So that's fine. I just don't engage on that front. Sometimes I think actually saying that, in the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, a lot more of my friends and family come out the woodwork because they're like, hold on, so you're really excited about everything that's going on. I was like, well, emotionally, I'm not that excited because I'm a human first, and I think it's sad what's happening in the world. But when there's crisis, recessions, things like that, that's when entrepreneurs activate. So they saw my activity going through the roof, and they're like, "Hold on a minute, what's going on over there?" So they're starting to be a bit more open to it. But quite honestly, I think they just think I'm sat on social media all day.
Now, I recently heard the term, we're in an entrepreneurial gold rush. So I'm wondering if you can give us a bit of a feel for the landscape of entrepreneurship right now.
Yeah, well, I'd have to agree. I think fundamentally what the last few years has taught us all as a society is that we all have an element, especially now in this kind of digital age, a lot more control over our futures. And whereas maybe previously you had to kind of wait your turn to take a leadership position or move through a career, now people are quite open to go, actually, I can take control of my own life. And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of people come into the industry, come in to start their own businesses. And they're doing it on the side of their already jobs. So side hustle become like a really popular thing during the pandemic. I'm not sure I like the term side hustle. I prefer side business. It take a bit more seriously. But yeah, I think, if you look at the technology, if you look at the market as it is, the distribution channels have expanded and exponentially. You don't need to run Facebook and Google ads anymore to try and advertise. You can use short form content on TikTok and Instagram and various other platforms. Makes it very accessible. So I think the barrier to entry has lowered dramatically, which has allowed a lot of people to come into the market. We're seeing a lot of acquisitions at the moment. So again, I've been buying and selling businesses as well over the last 8 years, and it's a really good time to buy a business. There's a lot of people that took a lot of debt on during the pandemic. They may take bounce back loans and grants and various other things, and they've run out of cash flow. So I'm seeing a lot of businesses up for liquidation, and you're seeing a lot of phoenixes coming through that. So you can buy a business for like £1 right now, as long as you can maintain that cash flow for what they've got going on. So I think there's two ends of the market. There's the kind of, I don't want to bracket completely, but the kind of the boomer, I call them bobs, boomer owned businesses, where you kind of got these boomer businesses that are, their kids don't want to run a flooring company or whatever. They want to be a YouTuber. So there's a lot of bobs that can be bought out of the market. So there's a lot of opportunity on that side of things. And then you got the kind of new gen businesses that are coming through that are operating not even just on social media, like the amount of businesses that operate behind the scenes in like Discord and Reddit and places like almost borderline dark web. There's a lot of activity in Web3 world as well. So, I think everyone should be an entrepreneur. So, of course, I'm going to say it's like the best opportunity ever to start a business.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Now, you mentioned social entrepreneur at the top of the show. So can you just tell us, what does that mean? And how is that different to an entrepreneur in the traditional sense of the word?
Yeah, so I said entrepreneur is like the definition of an entrepreneur is that you're turning an idea into value. If you just add the word social before value, that kind of sets the scene. So, whereas traditionally I'd always started businesses for money, and it was about developing profit. Excuse me. It was about profit, financial profit. Well, there are different ways to measure profit, and social value is the way that we measure our impact as a CIC. So I'm actually registered as a community interest company. So it's limited by guarantee, which basically means it's a gap between there's like charity over here, which is completely non-for-profit, can't generate revenue, relies on donations, grants, lottery funding, things like that. You have a board of trustees, and if they don't like you, they can sack you. And then you've got a limited company over here, which is for profit. Well, in between, you've got a CIC, and that's where we kind of sit, right in the middle. So I can generate revenue. I can still, tap into kind of corporate social responsibility funding. I can still get grants. There's this whole new wave of CICs coming through. So that's where we kind of operate in a social entrepreneur. But from a skill set point of view, for me, it's about So I'm a spiritual person. I wouldn't say I'm religious, but I have a sense of purpose within me that has my connection to my community. I love community. I love the town I live in. I love to see it develop. I like to see, things going on. So I've kind of tied my entrepreneurial skills to social outcomes. So I'll give you an example. We are about to set up something called a co-retail store. So this is a retail store essentially for micro retailers in the area. It's a social enterprise. People pay £80 to £100 per product line that they send in, and they get 100% of the profit. So we've created a function using entrepreneurial skills. There's not going to be any profit for us in it at all, but the businesses that are using it get the benefit. So it's basically using entrepreneurial skills to a social benefit. That's kind of best way to sum up.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, entrepreneurship for good. I've heard of the term B Corp. Is that a similar structure to the CIC?
So B Corp is like a governing body. So it's like an accreditation. So it's basically you saying, we align to these goals, these kind of UN sustainability goals, usually around sustainability, and so ESG is like environment, sustainability, governance. Environment, social governance. B Corp has kind of badged that, if you like. So it's not a structure. You can be a B Corp and be a limited company. You can be a B Corp and be a charity. It's more around kind of best principles and community. So we're not a B Corp yet. We haven't gone through that process yet. But essentially, it's you committing to say that we're going to measure our profit not just on a monetary gain, but also a social value.
Yeah.
And environment, of course.
Yeah, great. Thank you. When we're talking about the social entrepreneurship, it reminded me of that film, Bank of Dave, that I've recently watched. I don't know if you've seen it.
So I haven't seen it. However, interesting you raise it. We are currently looking at setting up a local investment fund. So our own bank. So it sounds like it's a similar sort of thing. So I need to watch this Bank of Dave.
You definitely do.
I've been floating the idea of the local investment fund for a while, and everyone keeps saying to me, "Oh, Bank of St. Neots, oh, Bank of Dave." I said, so I must watch it. But yeah, from the sounds of things, it's that premise. It's like, can we take control of our own community? That's the focus.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. Now, before we deep dive into what you're doing on an average day, Alex, I think it might be helpful if we give the audience a flavour of the I guess the businesses you've set up, or what you're involved in right now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So probably wise to stick to what right now, because it'd be a long podcast if we were to go through each venture. But essentially, I've got 4 businesses that are kind of currently a focus. So I've already talked about the community interest company, which is Inspired to Ignite. Essentially, what that is taking lessons from my own personal journey. So I was a 14-year-old father. So I left school at 14 because I had to go and look after my son. I had to go and financially do the right thing. So back in 2019, I was sharing that story where I'd kind of come from at a conference in Cambridge. And I basically said, look, my intention is I want to help young people that were in my kind of situation set up their own business. If anyone's open to collaborate, let's do it. Anyway, someone from Cambridge City Council reached out and said, Alex, I heard your story, love what you're doing, love what you stand for. Would you develop a program for us that would take a young person through the process of starting their own business as a self-development journey? So we did that as a pilot, 2020 through to 2022, using European social funding. So not very happy about Brexit, but don't get me started. And that basically gave us an acorn to develop an enterprise. So we've now developed that into a full ecosystem for young people. One side of it is Curious Entrepreneurs, which is our Discord community and our programs for young people. And the other is the corporate side. So where we've got brands, big brands, like Bidwell's, for instance, they're one of our sponsors. We'll actually run entrepreneurial work placements for them in their business with young people from the local community. So that's kind of inspired to Ignite. And my role there, so if you talk about my kind of role as the founder, I make a very clear distinction here. I'm a founder. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a CEO. So although I am interim CEO at Inspired to Ignite, it's a very short-term thing. I am a terrible CEO. I've got ADHD. I know where I fit best. I'm a fire starter. I get things going. I get people in the door. I get them to buy things, and then I leave because I've got ADHD and it won't let me stay around for long. So I'm well aware of that in myself. So my role within that company is to form meaningful partnerships, and build strategies to enable us to scale and develop a team underneath that. So that's what I've been doing with Inspired to Ignite. I'm also the chair of St. Neots Initiative, which is a community partnership which has been going for 29 years now. I'm the fourth ever chair. So there's only been 4 chairs in 29 years. I'm the fourth one. And my role there is to, again, develop the strategies and disrupt the silos that exist within our town, both socially and economically, to look at how can we build better infrastructure for the future of the town. So I've developed a strategy that essentially leads on one question, which is, what does the quality of life look like for a citizen of St. Neots 10 years from now? And all of our strategy is based around that question. So underneath me, I've got a chair of promotion and tourism, the manufacturing group, youth voice, a redevelopment, transport and environment. Someone's going to get angry if I forget a group. The business investment community, which is basically town centre businesses. So essentially full coverage of the social and economic landscape of the town. And we're developing infrastructure for the better of our town. And then the other 2 projects that I'm kind of working on, I've got a consultancy called Shift Momentum, and we do community engagement, growth strategies for startups, investment, funding development, basically whatever a startup needs within Cambridgeshire. And we call ourselves an entrepreneurial business consultancy. Reason why, all of our consultants are active entrepreneurs. So we don't have my view is, if you've been out of the game for 3 years, you're out of touch. Things are changing so fast now. So it's a way to give back to the entrepreneurial community. And the 4th project I'm working on, which is a proper side business, a side hustle, is called Street Food Fest. We started it 2 years ago during the pandemic, and essentially it's a street food festival. We got 2 in St. Neots this year, 1 in Alconbury. We're hoping to do another in Peterborough. That business is great. My role there is business development. So getting quality vendors, getting quality sponsors, getting the right people involved in the event. So this year we're expecting somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 people will turn up to one of these events. And then the business model is really simple. We take 15% revenue of all of the vendors that are serving there. So a diverse portfolio, to say the least. Yeah. The common thread in terms of my role is the word entrepreneur. It's getting people on board. It's persuading people that we're doing the right thing. It's selling the vision of what we're trying to achieve and developing strategies that help us bridge the gap between the vision and the reality of where we are now.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's really helpful. I just want to touch on something you said there about the differences between founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs, because I think sometimes, again, confusion, and people might think that those 3 terms mean the same thing. So you've already kindly shared with us that they are different, but I'm wondering if you could tell us the main differences. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, no, it's a great question. So a founder, you could be a founder if you come up with some kind of new idea, this new technology or something, and, bring other people on board at the front end. You're being entrepreneurial at that point. You're not quite there as an entrepreneur, but you're being entrepreneurial. You're starting something. So the founder is the person who kind of had the idea, if you like, if that makes sense. And you can be all 3, by the way, which makes it even more confusing. The entrepreneur we've talked about, I think that's clear. For me, that entrepreneur is someone who develops and sells assets. So they don't develop the product; they develop the asset, which is the business. That is what you're trying to do as an entrepreneur. You're developing and selling assets. The CEO is the leader within the organization. So sometimes it depends on the structure of your business. You might have a managing director. You might have a CEO. It's all kind of the same sort of thing. It's just a language issue. Again, Americans and us, we're very different. But a CEO's role is to essentially direct the business on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So everything kind of reports into the CEO. So you might be, and I have been the CEO of a few of the businesses that we've got. I am one now for Inspired to Ignite. So here's me, ultimately accountable for the success of the business. And then underneath that, I'll have strands of activity. So you might have a CMO, you might have a marketing person there, you might have a CTO, which is a tech, you might have a COO, like an operations person. So it's up to you how you design your structures. That's the beauty of business. But ultimately, the CEO is ultimately accountable for the success on not always developing the strategy, but definitely executing on the strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That's really helpful. And I think sometimes I like to think of it as the CEO is the ship's been built and the CEO is now steering it, and it will steer it through choppy waters and calmer seas, but ultimately they're responsible for steering that ship on its journey. So
yeah,
thank you.
No, exactly. And I think it also depends like on I'm a wartime leader. So I'm a if I'm going to be a CEO, I'm a kind of command and control kind of leader. It's just the way I am. I'm all go. So during those calm waters, I'm not the right guy. I'm definitely not the right guy. But if COVID strikes, then I'm the first person in charge. Like, give Alex the reins because he'll drive us through the madness.
Yeah.
So it depends on your character. You got to really understand who you are. And I think that comes back down to, it's always about understanding who you are and what makes you tick and what you're great at to enable you to know what type of leader you want to become.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's a real benefit to having that self-awareness and the confidence to say, actually, these are the bits I'm good at. These are the bits I'm not so good at. And as a leader, so I'm going to, hire someone who's better at those things to take over those reins. And I think that's self-awareness and confidence, really, really valuable for just that reason. Okay, Alex, it sounds like you've got a lot on your plate. So why don't you give us a flavour of an average day or week? What would we find you doing?
Blimey, wow. Okay, yeah, okay. So I think there's a few things that anchor me in a day. So I don't have like there's no every day is different. Literally every day is completely different. So instead, what I do is I anchor certain habits and behaviors into my life that enable me to be effective every single day. So first and foremost, I work 7 days a week. So I never have there's no as an entrepreneur, there's no work-life balance. It doesn't exist. Anyone who says it does are lying. There's absolutely no way in a startup that can exist. So knowing that, I decided very early on that I would blend it. So I'm a big believer in work-life blend. As an entrepreneur, I get to control everything in my environment. So I want the blend. I want to, jumping off this podcast, I want to go and spend an hour with my son. So, I'm going to go do that, or, I can do those things. So first, I'll front that. So there's a few things I have in my day that are really important. So one is every morning when I get up, I go and sit in my garden, 15 minutes with a cup of coffee, and I just take some time to reflect on yesterday and what went well, what didn't go so well, what did I learn, and then I have some time to be grateful for what I have and what I've got ahead of me. And then I set 3 priorities for the day. So I have 3 objectives a day, which are kind of strategic objectives. And then I schedule that time in my diary. So deep work time. And if I complete those 3 things, that's my day done. So that's generally how I operate my life on a Monday to Sunday basis. The reality in between that is most of my time is taken through meetings. And, one of the worst things that's happened since the pandemic is the adoption of Zoom. I hate Zoom. I hate the meeting, Zoom, Teams. There are other awful social barriers to buy. Before the pandemic, we didn't do Zoom meetings. We used to do phone calls. You go, hey, can we grab a 10-minute call? And that was fine. So I didn't quite understand this whole thing. Anyway, but the reality is people want to have lots of meetings with me. So I spend most of my time, probably 40 to 60 a week of meetings that I'm involved in some way, whether it's workshops or networking, that sort of thing. So yeah, I suppose it's a long way around saying, but every day is different. Which is why you have to have a few anchors within the day.
Yeah. And so what are you doing when you're not doing deep work and you're not doing meetings?
I'll schedule some time in every day for engagement on social media. So LinkedIn's a key platform for me, where I get a lot of my business. So I have half hour at the beginning of the day, half hour at the end of the day scheduled in. So everything is scheduled in. So even free time is scheduled in. So I kind of operate with this kind of, I don't want any free time. I see blank space in my calendar as an enemy, because I will literally just procrastinate and do nothing. I'll just sit there and do nothing. So I'm always, even if I want some free time to go for a walk or whatever, I schedule it in. So everything is scheduled in my diary, end to end.
Yeah. Okay.
Even playtime.
Okay. Very good. So meetings, again, just I guess zooming in a little bit further, what types of meetings are you having? Because I'm sure that you're having meetings with clients, prospective partners, leaders within the organizations. Give us a flavor of what that might look like.
Yeah, of course. So internally, we have a weekly strategy meeting. So on a Monday, we always have an hour's strategic meeting with the whole team, and the whole team are involved in that, regardless of where you are in the organization. We operate with a flat structure. Then I have a sales meeting for half an hour early in the week and at the end of the week with my business development team. So just making sure that their message are on point, that we're all on sync. We're not speaking to the same people. There's no conflicts. So they're kind of regular ones, internal. We have creative brainstorming sessions every week. So we have like an ideas party. So where we're developing new ideas, new products, new content. We have like a creative process that happens every week. And then externally, I'm meeting. So it could be, one day I'm meeting the MD of a, huge social care company that employ like 400,000 people, for instance, who I was with on Friday to talk about how we can, gain their support, gain their sponsorship for our projects and what we're doing, to the governor of a prison or the governor of a school or vice principal or a social care worker or a football team. Is the variation of people I get to meet. That's one of the best benefits of being an entrepreneur, is the variation of people I get to meet every day is incredible. So yeah, they're mostly, I don't really sell. So although I've definitely produced a lot of sales in the last 8 years, I've never sold anyone anything, if that makes sense. I look to build rapport with people. I see if there's a common connection. I tend to be like, look, this is my vision. This is what we're working on. This is how we're executing right now. These are where we got some gaps and some challenges, maybe some opportunities. Do you align with that? And if so, then let's build some rapport. Let's see where we can align. Unless I'm extremely busy, or I don't know if I should admit this. No, it's fine. Sometimes I will just say to people, can we just skip to the good bit? And I will literally say that within 5-10 minutes and be like, can we skip to the good bit where, I've already told you everything we're trying to achieve. You're already excited about it. And we're just going to, talk business. And I'll try and get to that point as quickly as I possibly can, because my focus is on working with my team, working with young people, working with influencers in our local environment to make change in our community. Yeah. So, when I have to have a meeting with like a corporate or a sponsor, I just want to get their money and I can crack on with the work I actually should be doing. That makes sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah.
There's a third meeting I didn't think about. Sorry.
Yeah.
One of the things we've inspired to ignite with Curious Entrepreneurs is that I'm quite direct. So when I'm working with young people, they need to be ready for that conversation with me, because you're going to get, 20 minutes of my time. I'm going to need to know what you want from me, when you want it, how, what do you need? And I'm going to give you everything you need, probably in a very intense 20 minutes for these young people sometimes. So, which is why we have a whole coaching team that spends a lot of time with the young people before they get to me. So on at least 2 a week, I'll spend time directly with those young people, opening up doors for them. They'll share their business plans with me. They'll share their ideas. I'll give them some critical feedback. And then I can open up my network for them. So that's the only other kind of out of the box meeting that I'll have, and we'll be kind of onboarding young people.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Alex, tell us about some things that happen less frequently throughout the year. Perhaps, the really exciting stuff, or the more challenging stuff.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do every year religiously is I do a digital detoxes. So when Christine's my partner in life and business. When we go away together, we do it at Christmas. We'll book a cabin in the middle of nowhere, usually like a little village or in the middle of the woods somewhere. And we do full digital detox. So no phones, no TVs, no laptops, just us. And now we've got a little 6-month-old baby. So this Christmas one was even extra special. Got the dogs, we walk. But the whole purpose of that time, when you live an intense life, and actually I think a lot of people could do this, it's about realigning, make sure that we're still on track towards our vision, what we're trying to achieve, kind of balance on towards where we're trying to go. So really structured. I'll do a day on my own, just completely on my own, journaling, reflecting on the year just gone, those sort of things. Christine would do the same. And then we'll come together and we'll set goals for ourselves together. So I've got goals for me personally, but we've got relationship goals, and then we set goals for the businesses. So it all starts with that human level and then filters into the business. So we structure into that. So that's one of the things that we do on a regular basis. We have quarterly board meetings. So that's where I'll bring in board of advisors, accountants, lawyers, people that are kind of on the periphery of what we're doing, just to keep them updated. This is the strategy. This is where we are against our KPIs, our key performance indicators. And here's some new stuff that might be interesting to everyone in terms of long-term strategy. And then the only other kind of out the norm things are the big events. So when we're planning like big events, so recently we just had over 200 leaders come together a couple of weeks ago, hugely intense. But we how we deal with those things, whether it be a new website or a new event or something new, a new product or asset, we use sprints. So we work in like short bursts. So we do like a daily stand-up, so 15-minute daily stand-up. Here's the targets. Here's what we're trying to achieve. What are you going to go and achieve, Lynette? What are you going to go achieve, Anastasia? We'll write them up on the board, and then we use something called a Pomodoro technique. So it's basically, so we all have a rhythm, ultradian rhythm as humans. So we're up, down, up, down. It's just a natural rhythm. Everyone has one. So what this does is it taps into that. So we have a clock up on the wall. Everyone puts their airplane mode on. We put a timer for 25 minutes and you burst work on one thing. Then after 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. We breathe, we move, we just chat, just chill out. Then you go again 3 times, and then you all break together, and then we go for a walk together, come back. We are so productive during those sprint times. It's a really healthy way to kind of get things done in a meaningful way.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks for sharing. Sounds great. Alex, Tell us what you love most about your work.
It's the building, it's the journey. I think most entrepreneurs aren't that interested in the results. Like I am. I'm focused on, getting that revenue target, or, helping those hundreds of people, or like whatever that targets are. They are really exciting to me, but actually achieving the target isn't that exciting. I'm a builder. So I like building. I like nothing more than the work itself. And I think that's why, I've had quite a bit of success in business, is because I enjoy it. I love the grind. I like I like to say, I'd like to remain hungry. So I'm not one for, the Lamborghini and lavish holidays and whatever else like that. Like even clothes, I'm not really a consumer in that sense. Yeah. Like if I could wear the same T-shirt every single day for the rest of my life, I would be very happy with that. Like I'm just not that interested in any of this. So I really like the grind. I really enjoy the churn, because I know that's where the real value in the market is. So I think that's really enjoyable. Obviously, the people. I mean, I have had so I've employed over 150 people in the last 7 years of my own businesses, and I've never advertised for a job. I've never put an advertisement out for a job. I've got, I'm an avid networker. I love meeting new people, hearing people's stories, building meaningful connections with other people that are doing good in the world. And usually I'll hire them when they ask me for a reference. So like our marketing manager recently, she's amazing. She's, worked for a huge charity, for muscular dystrophy charity. She's just a phenomenal marketer. And she actually texted me in November and said, "Oh, Alex, I'm looking for another role. I've got a couple of interviews. Could you do me a reference?" I said, "No, I can't do your reference, but I'll give you a job." Because she's just phenomenal. So I'm like, I love people, and I love working with others that have got passion for what they do and what they care about. And there's a lot to life when you've got good people around you, you're doing meaningful work. So so for me, it's all about the day to day. I love just the Tuesday, whatever that Tuesday looks like. I just love the day. That's me. I'm in my element when I'm in the weeds.
Yeah, brilliant. What about the challenges? What's the most challenging part of the work?
Self-doubt. I think the darkness that comes with when you're trying to disrupt or change anything in life. It's very easy to, I say easy. It's really simple to do well in business financially. It really is. Like I can show you 1,000 examples, and I've got a few myself. But when you're trying to make change, so for instance, like the education system, which I'm always up against in that sense, and our biggest competitors are like systemic social housing issues and county lines. Like they're our two biggest competitors to the work we do. So
wow.
I'll give you an example. I've got a young guy who joined our program a couple of months ago, 19 years old. Both parents are in prison. He's living in a social housing project currently, like a staging house, but he's hungry. Like he's the mindset. He's got that chip on his shoulder. You can clearly see wants it. He's like, "No, Alex, I'll do anything. I want to change my life. I want to get better. I want to make this happen." Right? Amazing mindset. Really, good energy you can turn into something. So we go through the plans. We do kind of like a relationship reflector, see who's around their network, see what his assets are as an individual and how we can leverage that to make income or get a job or whatever. And then you find out that if he works, the social housing project takes 65% of his income. 65%. So would you work for 65% tax? Do you think, Joe?
Well, definitely not. Can you? I mean, this is news to me. So, why would they do that? Is it almost
because that's payment? That's payment for living there. So basically, you get paid. So the social housing project gets paid regardless, right? So if he's not working, the government top it up and pay it anyway. If he is working, then they take the income off him to keep him there. So it's a trap. So
there's no incentive.
That's a genuine no incentive. So what he should do, unfortunately, he can't see beyond that current. And I get it. Like, I couldn't work for 65% tax. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So the challenges are the real kind of systemic challenges that we're facing. Same with school. I see there being two traps in life. There's the comfort trap, where you've got maybe your parents have done some work, done well in life, then they've got a trust and they look after you, and you can go and take a gap year traveling around Bali and finding yourself or whatever else. And then you've got that trap. So they're the real challenges, is getting young people over those barriers to see beyond that current circumstance, and then for me to then try and make the changes required in our communities, our society, to have those sort of policy changes that need to make place.
Yeah. And you mentioned
that messes with my head.
Yeah. And you mentioned the challenge being self-doubt. So is that you doubting whether you can do it? Or tell us about that.
Yeah. I think when you're in control. So, like I said, like where I kind of started with that is, if I've got a business and I'm selling, I'm selling these lovely water bottles, right? I'm in control of that. I can change the branding. I can make the product better. I can, develop marketing strategies to get it out to market. I'm in complete control of all of the outcomes for that business. There are certain market factors and, behavioral factors that will happen in the market that might, mean my sales fluctuate. But one way or the other, worst case scenario, I can walk out that front door and sell that to someone on the high street, right? Someone's buying it. But when you're moving into this kind of the social change side of things, I genuinely, I don't mind sharing it with you. I think it's important. I've been in situations, where I'm, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm looking myself in the mirror. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm pulling my hair out, trying to fight for these young people. And I'm just hitting barrier after barrier after barrier. And like, do you actually want them to work? Do you actually want them to be a meaningful, part of society? And then you see the narrative and the message coming out of our government, all this horrific, like the way that they speak to each other, the behaviors that they show, talking about stop the boats and all of these horrible like language. I'm like, hold on, there's just a mismatch. So for me, the biggest barrier is my own motivation to not give up on that side of the business, because it would be very easy to go, you know what, can't change it, can't do anything about it. Poor that young man I described earlier. Sorry, mate, I can't help you. But that's not me. That's not who I am. So I will always persevere. So instead, what I would do in that situation is this is where the entrepreneur comes out. I found the FD, the financial director of that business who owns that group. And he'd been in position 28 years. And so I had a meeting with him and I said, look, there's going to be an easy way or a hard way. I said, my priority is those young people in that building and you're in my way. So you got a choice. You can either work with me and we can find a way to find meaningful solutions together, or I'm going to make life hell for you and I'm going to come and get those young people out of that building. So, you can understand, when you're pursuing that sort of change, you're going to hit a few ceilings emotionally. And as a father, most important, that's like the emotion I pull on the most for those situations. I always think, would I give up on my son? Well, I wouldn't. So I apply that same energy and I kind of get through it that way.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that, Alex. It's really enlightening to hear. It just seems absolutely ridiculous, that example you just gave us.
And there's hundreds of them, Joe, honestly. And then that's the issue, is there are hundreds of examples that, unless we start to, as a society and as communities, to start to embrace our own infrastructure and our own ways of doing things. This is one of the things. It's like, if I went, oh, that's a government problem, or that's education's problem, or that's industry's problem. For me, the way that the world is changing when it comes to, when we talk about careers and we talk about professional like routes for us all, the sooner we can make some of these issues community issues, then we can come up with community solutions where we can all contribute to the change. And that's what the key in all of this is getting people to understand. And they usually say to me, what's in it for you, Alex? Because everyone's like, what's in it for you? I'm like, well, I just love doing it. Like, what do you want? Like, I don't need anything. I don't need anything from you. I just want you to embrace a new way of living, which I think we were going to need to embrace. So yeah, that's it is tough, but it's very, very, very rewarding when you get the results.
Yeah. Alex, I've got to ask you this. You seem like an ideas person to me. So how do you balance, all these new ideas with the stuff that you've got on your plate? Because I'm imagining, it could easily get overloaded.
Yeah, I have done in the past. It's well, I think you said it earlier. The first thing to mention is self-awareness. Is know that. I own it. If you go and look at any literature around myself, whether that's how I describe myself on social media or how I describe myself on our website, etc., I'm a I'm a fire starter. That's what I am. I'm an ideas guy. I'm here to develop those ideas and turn them into value, which is what an entrepreneur does. How I balance it now, luckily, I've got loads of young, curious entrepreneurs that can take my ideas and do something with them. So I've used that to our benefit. So when people come in, they say, don't worry. If you haven't got an idea, you can borrow one of mine. I've got plenty of them. So I see it as a benefit. How do I balance it to stop kind of burnout and just becoming overwhelmed by everything is structure. I mentioned earlier, it's that kind of check and balance every week. Sunday is my ritual day. So that's where I re-look at my goals. What am I trying to achieve? Set some time aside for those objectives. If I do have an idea, that's fine. I can jot it down over here. And then if it fits in what I'm doing, then great. If not, that's fine. It goes in the bank and it's for another day, So I think it depends on where I am in my building stages. So if I've got space, I'll fill it with new ideas for sure. But if I haven't got space, I've kind of got the self-awareness and the self-discipline now, 8 years in now. I've learned the hard way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Put it in the parking lot.
I get told off. Yeah, I get told off.
Alex, when you look back on the work you've been doing over the last 8 years, what are you most proud of?
I say I'm most, so at that personal level, I'm most proud of the fact that I saw the light of social entrepreneurship and that I didn't get kind of starstruck by all of the glitz and glamour. I've had some offers like you wouldn't believe, like, some really big offers, lots of money, like retirement money. And I've turned them down because they didn't align with my values. So, I think I'm very proud that I managed to stick to community, stay in my town, even though it's such a pain in my bum to try and develop and get mindsets changed. Small town in Cambridgeshire, I don't usually belong here. I belong in Manchester, London, Dubai, New York, where's the epicenter, the traditional epicenter of entrepreneurship or innovation. I'm very proud that I've managed to stay in my town and create assets for it. That's probably my biggest achievement there. In terms of my own personal development, I left school at 14, like I said earlier. I don't know how I get, how I'm here. I think I've proven a point, and I'm proving it to a lot of young people now, that academic success has absolutely nothing, and I say absolutely nothing, to do with success in your professional life. Nothing. Don't care if you want to be a surgeon, doctor, any of the arguments that come up, unless you have the ability to get up out of bed in the morning, manage money, manage conversations, learn to sell yourself, develop that confidence, develop the self-awareness, all of that stuff is really crucial. And I had to learn it the hard way. But, I would say that, proving that has been quite fulfilling. Going into university, for instance, and having a debate with, someone who, a professor of economics and business or whatever, and then gaining that, not that I need that respect, but it is quite fulfilling to go, you know what, I can intellectually battle with these guys and in a meaningful way that I'm quite proud of.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. So, Alex, let's go back to your career journey, and I would love to understand, what you wanted to be when you were a young man or a young boy. But then, if you feel comfortable, tell us a bit of that journey that you talk about and how you managed it. Such a massive,
of course,
change.
Yeah, of course. So, I when I was younger, so if I think pre kind of 13, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do or be, but I was obsessed with tech. Like I really enjoyed gaming. These were the kind of early days of the internet coming through, or broadband coming through. So I was kind of benefiting from that world and living in that world, mainly from a gaming point of view. So I was a massive gamer. I loved gaming. I wish e-gaming was or esports was what it is now. Then I think I would have been, definitely would have been a competitive gamer. So I was always interested in that sort of thing. So when I left school, I obviously didn't have any options, because if you didn't have your GCSEs, therefore you were discarded by the community. But I did end up finding an apprenticeship in IT. So I started at 19. I started as an IT apprentice for a building surveying firm. And the best way I can describe my life as an IT apprentice in a building surveying firm, have you ever seen the IT Crowd, the program, the IT Crowd?
Yeah. So
it was basically my life. It was like I'm in IT. There's three of us in a massive business, and no one even knows what IT stands for. So someone comes in and goes, "What are you up to, Alex?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fixing the broadband." Because like there could be anything. So basically, I did nothing for the first couple of years there. I don't mind admitting it. It was really kind of a pointless move for me. I enjoyed the people, and I enjoyed the working in that kind of office environment and getting my shirt on, going to work, whatever else. But I really, the college course I was on, it was like IT administrator. It was learning how to clean the keyboard effectively and stuff. It was just really quite pointless. Anyway, so I stayed there for a little while, way too long. I was there for, 19, 20. So I would have been there for 3 years. 3 years as an IT apprentice there, way too long. So I did qualify for the apprenticeship, which wasn't difficult. And then I left there after I had an injury. I was, we were moving a load of furniture and whatnot, and the guy I was moving the furniture with was like 7 foot. And I was really skinny at the time, and I was lifting this cabinet above my head, which I really shouldn't have been doing. And then I dropped it, and it went into my shoulder, like here, and it actually damaged my back to a point where I was pretty much bedbound for a couple of months, which got me back into gaming a lot. But I wasn't doing much work. So I ended up leaving that company as a result of that situation. And then I was working as kind of a stopgap. I was working as an IT support administrator for the council, contracted in. That was an experience. Wow. You had to bring your own sugar cubes and your own mug to work. You're working for the council. I'm like, honestly, it was just disgraceful.
Wow.
Honestly, I had to bring everything. You had to hide it in your drawer just in case, someone would steal it or something. I don't know. But they couldn't possibly provide their staff a cup of coffee, because taxpayers' money and all of this.
Or a sugar cube.
They waste it on other things. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. Honestly, it was mad. So I was in this environment. I was like, I've just got to get out of here. Anyway, I saw this advert for a global pharmaceutical company were hiring in Cambridge. And I thought, you know what? The role's a bit of a step backwards, but it's a big company. Let's go and have a look. And I walked into this building. I was like, oh, wow, I've got to work here. I don't care what it is I'm doing. I just got to work here. You know, they had free coffee, and they had like lots of, it was like a Google kind of esque kind of place. You know, everyone was chilling out, they were having meetings downstairs in the comfy seats and whatever else. I was like, I don't care what it is I'm doing. I'm going here. So this actually was probably the real making of me, this role, because I took on a short-term contract as a first-line support analyst. And from that point onwards, I went literally every 6 months was a pay rise or a promotion. I found my way, my hustle that I developed from a younger age. I was in a very competitive environment, because if you're in IT support, there's essentially loads of problems coming your way, and you've got to fix them as quickly as you can. So it was quite a competitive environment, which suited me quite nicely. So I was just flying through this organization. I had a really good manager at the time, a guy called Mark Brownwhite, who I'll thank him to this day. He's a lovely man. He was kind of the first and second line manager. And he was really nurturing as a manager. He really got to understand us as humans. And he identified in me quite early and was very vocal to say, Alex, look, people follow you. Like if you are late every day, which I was, and if you're out for a cigarette break every hour, which I was, you know, you are setting although you might be performing better than anyone else, you know, not everyone can operate with your hyper. Because I wasn't diagnosed ADHD then. I didn't know that I was hyper focusing. I could just smash things out. And I was using that to my advantage against people. So I was like, you can't keep up with me, because I can work 12 hours solid and no one can keep up. So anyway, he then said, look, Alex, you need to embrace this. You're a leader. You don't know it yet, but you're a leader. I said, oh, that's interesting. So then placed me in doing something called VIP support. And this was fascinating. So I would look after all the leaders
VIP
of this global pharmaceutical company. Yeah. So I would look after, basically, I would sit in the corner of a room making sure the printer didn't break. But the difference was I was sat in the boardroom. So I'm all of a sudden, I've been put in the boardroom with this multi-billion-pound leaders, like some of the richest people in the world. I'm getting to interact with on a daily basis. So I was watching, and I'm like, I then became obsessed with leadership during that time. I really started to understand what makes a good leader, how they were influencing people, how they were preparing, even to the point where I was watching them before they were going into their meetings. The way they were preparing, some of them meditate, some of them walk, some of them think, some of them have music on, and they just kind of get in the mood for it. I became obsessed with this. So anyway, I know this was the last bit before I kind of checked out of this organization. But a job came up for project coordinator within the business. So there's a lot of internal movement around the business, which is one of the benefits of working for a big business, by the way. You can move around a lot. Anyway, this project coordinator job came up, and I thought, that's interesting. So basically, we've got they do software development. They have all of these massive IT projects that go out globally and to all the IACs. And the role was to look at balancing the needs of the business with the capabilities and resources that we had technically. So it's like portfolio management. It was fascinating. So I'd be like, right, we've got, 10,000 hours of a software engineer, 5,000 of a project manager, all of these different capabilities, and these are the needs. And there was never matching, of course. There was always more that it needed than you had. So working with the different business leaders to understand that, and then balance load and resource load, was fascinating for me. So that's where it started to tick. I just finished my my leadership development course. I was like, right, okay, I definitely want to be a boss of something. And then I was looking at this and I'm thinking, what if I had my own resources? What if I had my own projects and my own resources, and I was assigning them in the same sort of disciplined way? And that's where I got hooked. And then I made the decision that I would leave. And I kind of did what most people do at that point. They kind of staged themselves out. So I had a conversation with my boss, and he was like, I said to him, I want to start a laundry business, which is my first business. And he was like, what are you on about, Alex? Like, what? Sorry, we're offering you a fast track here to global leadership, which is basically where I was on track for. And I was 24. And you want to go and start a laundry business? I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. sorry, can I? And so then they give me a part-time role. They give me assistant. I then like use 6 months to kind of scale myself out of there. But I did enjoy it. I'm a big advocate for going to work within a corporate environment, because you will learn a lot about yourself through that process. And they've got big training budgets, so you can leverage it.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. I just want to touch on, Alex, a couple of things. So during the hustling years, before you got this IT internship, who were you talking to about careers? And I guess, what was it that at 19 you thought, right, let's go for this now?
So the answer is no one, because there was no support for me as a young father. There was no support, nothing. And there was nowhere to go to speak to people, apart from unless you wanted to go get a job in a warehouse or Tesco's or whatever. So I wasn't really speaking to anyone about it professionally. But a lot of my friends were going through similar sort of stuff. So, none of us had done particularly well academically, and the entrepreneurial things that we were doing, I definitely can't talk about on here. We weren't operating in a normal world, because much like our young friend I described earlier, you don't have much option at that stage. How I came across the apprenticeship was actually my friend saw an ad for the college. It was like an independent college, a small college. I don't think they exist anymore, in Huntingdon, and said they're looking for people that are interested in IT, that might want to get an IT apprenticeship. So I went there. So I started with college, and then they found me a job through the college. So I didn't really want a job. If I'm honest with you, I'm not a big fan of, it's kind of like, follow your passion and you'll be, all right. Well, my passion there as an 18-year-old was laying in my pants playing the PlayStation. No one's paying me for that. It's not 2023. I can't just upload that on TikTok. It's a really interesting conversation around the careers guidance piece at a younger age. I don't think they do enough to really understand who I am, rather than what I want to do and where my skills might match whatever else. But I would have benefited so much from someone just taking the time to say, "Who are you, Alex? Like, what gets you up? What gets you going? What motivates you? What are you passionate about? If someone had that conversation with me, it may have been a different path. But that's probably my experiences nutshell there.
Okay, and then when that person you mentioned had that conversation with you around, Alex, you've got leadership qualities, you need to embrace these. How did that make you feel?
I took some time, I think. I remember him having a conversation. I just kind of disregarded it to start with. But then, I went away and I was speaking to Christine, my partner, and she was like, "No, yeah, duh." Like, she was like, everyone can see it, Alex, but you can't. I don't know why. I was like, yeah, but I don't want anyone. I'm a bit of a rebel. So it was like, I don't really want anyone to lead. I don't want to lead anyone. I don't believe in this vision over here. I think what I realized during that process was like, okay, I appreciate that I could do this and I'm up for it, but I need to care about what we're doing. That was when I really started to question things, because it was really interesting, because we just had a new MD come into the business, and I won't mention his name, but he sent around this YouTube video to the whole of the organization, said, "This is the vision, this is what we're trying to achieve." And I just didn't get it. So I dropped him an email back and I said, look, and I was just, who am I? I'm just a project coordinator in this massive business. I just emailed him saying, look, I just want to be, candid with you. You don't even need to respond to me. I just don't really believe in what you've just said. I would really appreciate a coffee to better understand. Maybe I've missed something. And I actually sat down with this guy. This was 2 weeks before I decided to hand my notice in. So it wasn't linked, but it was just good coincidence. And I said, look, I just don't get it. I said, like, the language you've used hasn't sold it to everyone. It might have sold it to your stakeholders up that way, but actually within the business, I'm not sure you're going to get the buy-in that you're expecting. So I kind of learned through that process, through those few weeks, whilst I was having these conversations, that yes, I am quite excited about leadership, and I am excited to develop myself as a leader. But it has to be for something that matters, and that's what was key for me. It has to be for something that matters, and that I care about.
Yeah, great. And one more question before we move on to what happened next. Some people early in their career might have felt too nervous or scared to email. What gave you the confidence to just write it and send it?
So I do think, and this is where I do, I'm going to say something a bit controversial in the sense that I left the academic education system early. So one of the things that the academic education system is very good at in this country is teaching you to conform and put your hand up when you need to go to the toilet, and put your hand up when you need to speak, and wait your turn. Wait, you'll be next. You'll be next. Just be patient, Alex. Just be patient. You'll be next. You'll be next. I never had that. So I don't have a filter in that sense. I didn't have to train that muscle. It was trained through necessity. So I've always known, and I've also got a big family. So if you don't get there first, you ain't getting. It's kind of, I do think there's a lot to be said, and for those of you that are listening that may feel, that makes me a bit nervous. Train the muscle. You've got to develop resilience, and resilience doesn't happen by reading about it or learning about it in school. You've got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations on a regular basis to develop that muscle. For me, where there's a good habit there's something practical that people could take. Cold showers or cold plunge if you really would go for it. Every morning I cold shower, and that's not because there's some kind of maybe there is a health benefit, I don't know, but actually what that's doing is me telling myself I'm in charge. That's my brain saying this sucks. I do not want to stand here in this freezing cold shower in January. I really don't want this right now. But before I've even left the house, I've already overcome fear. And I've turned that into excitement. So, I think that's one of the things is, for me, I learned resilience by knocking on my son's door at 14 years old and being told to do one by his mother because we had a very, complex relationship. But I kept going back every week on knowing that I'd be told to do one every single time. That's how I developed my resilience. So when you say, Alex, go and, sell this bottle, just no problem at all, because my frame of reference, my perspective is different to yours, and everyone should understand that. And again, it comes back down to self-awareness. If you know who you are, then you know that you can overcome that, and there'll be a pathway to doing so.
Yeah, thank you. So facing the fear and doing it anyway. And what's the worst that can happen? They don't reply. Oh, well.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just get a no. Like, it's fine. Just the worst is living in that kind of middle ground. Like, I just want a yes or a no. I don't mind which one. So, and it comes back down to not putting too much importance on the result. It doesn't matter. No one cares that you got your 1-2 or your 1-1 or no one cares. No one cares. And there's no one cares that goes, oh, no one cares. And there's, yay, no one cares. No one cares. Brilliant. I can be me. I can embrace my true self and embrace my authenticity. And what then happens is magic, because when you are like your genuine true self every day and you just operate in that way, you get to attract other people that are the same, in the sense that they've got that comfortability about themselves. They're not trying to prove themselves. They're not trying to, my title is this. They are just that kind of human. That's the opportunity when you do that. And the fear thing, I get nervous. I get scared. That's normal. I think it's totally normal. I think just, again, find ways that work for you, that help you go through that. For me, it's breathing. I love breathe. I love purposefully breathing. So I will stop and, so if I'm about to go to work, like after this, I'll need to reframe my brain. I need to get my brain ready for something different. So I'll take 5 minutes and I'll sit here and I'll go through some box breathing or breathing exercise that will enable you to do that. But know that you're in full control of that, and how you process that fear will dictate a lot of your life. That's for sure.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so you've now left this organization and you're going to set up a laundry business. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so basically, my grandma, who was my hero, I love my grandma. She, when I was a lot of trouble when I was younger. I was a real troublemaker. I was in all sorts of grief, especially with police and stuff. And at one point, my mum had kicked me out of the house, and I was living with my grandma for some time. And so yeah, she's basically had been running this kind of side business, which she started, 38 years ago, called the Ironing Shop. And the idea being was that herself and other parents, they wanted a bit of extra income. They didn't want, they didn't want a full-time job or even a part-time job. They wanted to be in control of their income. So she had a laundry service, which was really simple. It was basically, and the best thing about this, at the time when I took it on, it was £1 for £1. So a pound's currency for £1 in weight. She didn't change the actual metric in line with the rest of the world because it was too complicated to work out the math in her head for £1 a pound. So yeah, we'd do some work with that. But anyway, she, what triggered this was she got dementia, and she had to obviously pass the business on. And my sister, who was the kind of natural person to take it on, had just had twins. So she wasn't going to take it on. So I had this kind of emotional connection to this ironing shop. I didn't want it to go away. It was literally a nothing business. And that's no disrespect to what she'd done. There was no limited company. It was just a brand. She had a van, which had 280,000 miles on it with some clip art on the side of it. It was awful. So I said to her, well, I'll take it on. I said, Christine, my partner at the time, my partner now, well, you do the operations, you could run this thing. I could do the sales and marketing on the side whilst I'm at work, and I can use this as an opportunity to kind of flex those entrepreneurial muscles. I knew I had, but I hadn't had a chance to play. So that's what we did. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll do sales and marketing. Christine, you do the operations, and let's go. So I started to learn about how to develop my own website and how to set up our own social media pages and how to start to get customers. Turns out the best way to get customers for a business like that is in the playground, because you're looking for busy parents that don't have time to do their ironing. So instead of faffing around with digital marketing, what I did was I armed my two nephews with leaflets for the ironing shop, and then I rewarded them with sweets to go get it. That generates £80,000 in revenue, just that one tactic. So I was like, that worked. So now let's layer on social media. Then let's layer on Google Ads, and we started to develop that kind of muscle. So I became quite obsessed with marketing and sales very quickly. And within 6 months, it was just a case of, sorry, Jeremy, who was my boss at the time, I've got to go. This is growing. So that kind of led me. Then we realized, and this is where the kind of, again, that kind of awareness and understanding came. I was like, sales. My strategy, which is the worst strategy you can ever have when you first start your own business, is get busy. I said, worst case scenario, I'm a Prince 2 practitioner. I'm very hireable. I can go get a job. It's fine. So I said, let's just get busy and everything will be okay. Well, we got busy and we went, 22,000, 80,000, looked at the business 6 months later and said, look, why aren't we making more money? I don't understand. We're doing 4 times the turnover and we're not making any more money than we were prior. Well, it turns out, actually, where the customer is matters. So I was saying yes to a customer 30 miles away. We were collecting 15 quid's worth of ironing. And it very quickly realized that we were developing a logistics company and not a ironing company. So it was all about density and increasing density of where we were serving. So that's when we started to fine tune the business. Then I had to go get some support because I needed to understand that better. I started to educate myself and find mentors and realized very quickly that business wasn't scalable. So because as soon as you go past £85,000 in revenue, you have VAT comes into place of a value-added tax. You then suddenly have to bump your prices by 20%. It's just not. I'd have to go from 80,000 to £250,000 to make it work. Anyway, So I said, well, that's fine. It's going to stay there as a lifestyle business. It's not going anywhere. It's my grandma's legacy. We'll keep it. So to this day, 8 years later, that business does £84,000 per year and never more, never less. And it's oversubscribed. Off the back of that, now, during the process of doing so, my mum at the time was running a domestic cleaning company that she'd set up as an offshoot of the ironing shop. So and she was getting a bit older. I said, well, look, why don't we integrate? So we bought the domestic cleaning company into the ironing shop, so then hit those turnover targets. And whilst doing so, we had, again, similar success. Direct-to-consumer marketing is quite simple. It really isn't that difficult. So I was focusing on that. Anyway, I was part of these kind of like masterminds and things. I like to kind of intellectually flex with other business owners. So I was part of this mastermind. And an accountant said to me, oh, one of my clients is selling. He's got a commercial cleaning company that he's wanting to sell it. I was like, okay, interesting. He's like, would you be interested in buying it? I was like, oh, yeah, why not? Let's have a look. So I met the guy, and he was close in retirement. And he's like, well, you're doing domestic cleaning. You know, commercial cleaning isn't that far off it. It's a bit of a different kind of market, but why not? Did our due diligence, and yeah, made the decision to buy it. So we bought this business for, you know, it was doing 140,000 turnover. Bought it day one, lost a third of the business. Third of our clients was one client who went into administration. No one could see it coming. It was just unfortunate. So I had to hustle. And again, that's when it goes bing. You know, my brain goes, right, Alex, we're in crisis. Brilliant. Let's go. So I was off, you know, back down, out hustling, you know, knocking on doors, trying to get business in. Social media marketing doesn't work when you want B2B. You know, it has value, but it's not, you've got to get out there and build relationships. So that's when I really learned the value of developing long-term, meaningful business relationships, was when I got into B2B. That business now is near on 7 figures in revenue, you know, 6 years later, and is worth 10 times what I bought it for. So that was a really good acquisition that really worked out for us. But yeah, since then, like to fast track you between like that third business and where we are now, which is business 14, my curiosity led me into manufacturing. I built a marketing agency, built a construction firm. An offshoot of the cleaning company was a maintenance firm that then led into construction. Then whilst I was doing all of this, I had other people in my network going, hold on a minute, how did you do that? Can you help me do it? And then I built a consultancy, and then I didn't have any more time to do the consultancy, so I built a community, which is Shifties, which now has 1,400 members in there, all helping each other. So yeah, it was one of them where you realize when you're in flow, and it's only when you have conversations like this where you reflect back, you're like, wow, there was a lot going on in there. But what the common thread in all of it, Joe, and I think, you know, for your listeners, if they are, you know, if you are genuinely thinking about, right, okay, I want to go on this kind of pathway, it is, I think you said it, it's understanding who you are. I know my strengths. So like whenever I start a business, I always say the same thing to people around the table. I say, right, if we were going to write a book on what we're about to achieve, what chapters would you write? And what ones are we missing? So I know which chapters I can write, and I know which chapters I'm missing, so that if you start there, that will enable you to then develop the team that you need to go get. But it doesn't mean it's always money. Like, I'm very good at persuading people to come on board and get involved in something for no money at all, because they believe in what we're trying to achieve. And that's where that kind of selling the vision is really important, in understanding the key role of any entrepreneur is being able to articulate that vision and sell it to people with purpose.
Wow. So the ironing shop was business number 1, and you're now at full, you're now on 10, 11, 12, and 11, 12, 13, and 14.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. And before we go on to, I guess, the highs and lows of that journey, I'm really curious if you've ever had to close down a business, or if you've ever sold a business, or I think that might be quite interesting for the audience? Because yeah, some of those went away, didn't they?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, every business, and this is one of the things. One of the key lessons I learned when I was young in my entrepreneurial journey. Very good mentor told me. He said, "Look, Alex, never fall in love with your business." And I wholeheartedly agree with this. Never ever. It's just an asset. It's just a business. There's no, this. It's just it's like a house. It's just another asset class. It is going to die. Every business dies. Whether it means you put it down nicely and gracefully, or if it falls out and it's dead, or you sell it, it's not you. It's not you as a human. So I'm quite emotionally detached to that, and I'm happy to share. So I'll give you two examples where I exited. The first one, and I can't say the name of the business because there was some legalities around this, but basically I was sold the idea of getting involved in a business. It was a property maintenance firm. And the people that had kind of approached me, I got approached through my network, and they said they were ops. They were very good at doing and they'd seen my kind of skills in sales and marketing and said, Alex, do you want in? Do you want equity on this business? You could do all the sales and marketing. We'll just churn it out. Great. That works for me because my philosophy when I'm doing sales and marketing is I'm going to break my operations team. I'm very competitive. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do so well that I'm going to break you. Well, I did 350 grand in 3 months when I launched this business. Right. And, these guys were, our values weren't in line. They weren't, the work, when I was seeing some of the quotes come back and seeing some of the work that was going out, they were good at the work they were doing, but I wasn't quite in line with some of the charging models and stuff. It just, I don't know, it wasn't sitting right with me. So I exited that business because I said it wasn't right for me. I don't belong in this business. We have different values. The end, right? And they didn't quite get it, but they bought me out, and that was it. Another example was a business that I exited, was a marketing agency. So naturally, as a business consultancy, a lot of people I've helped hundreds of people start businesses and grow businesses. And during that process, it seemed to make sense at the time to develop a marketing agency because I was outsourcing so much work to marketers. Why wouldn't I have a marketing agency and do it in-house, right? It makes sense. Until I actually started to build a marketing agency, and I'm like, this is horrific. I'm not liking this. Very different, very challenging market, very challenging teams to build in agencies. So, again, I had the conversation with the co-founder at the time. It was difficult. It was really tough conversation because he's like, I don't get it. You can help us. You can scale this. I know, but it just isn't, it isn't right for me. It isn't the right time in my life to do these sort of things. So that was unfortunate. I'll tell you another one. There's always a good one for a fail because I love fails. I'm a massive fan of fail. So entrepreneurs operate in failure. Like I think as a UK culture, we're terrible at embracing failure. I love failing. It's brilliant. Anyway, here's the best one I've ever had. This is the best idea that never made it to market. So I got a heads up about 6 years ago from a contact in BBC. The BBC were about to do a watchdog episode on traces of salmonella being found on trolleys, so on like the bar of the trolleys. And you might remember that we had this case where the shopping carts that come out of the vans for home delivery, someone put one of them on a garden and there was feces there, went into the truck, and they were legislated through government that they had to basically weekly, wash everything and make sure it's anti-bagged. Anyway, so I got a heads up that this was happening. And so naturally, at the time I was just running a commercial cleaning company. So I rang my supplier, a guy called Michael. I said, look, dude, I can't find a solution for this. We essentially need a washing machine for trolleys because I think all of the big supermarkets are going to be told they have to sanitize all of their trolleys on a regular basis because at the time they didn't have to. So massive opportunity. You imagine how many trolleys there are in the UK, right? Like there's a lot of trolleys. Anyway, couldn't find a solution here. And so I said, Michael, will you go away and have a little look, see what you can find? I can definitely get us this contract because we can get us positioned ready for it. He's like, yeah, fine. We found an R&D company in the north of France that were developing this kind of wash box thing. Mm-hmm. So we jumped, literally, I said, right, dude, I'm coming to you. We jumped in the car. We crossed the ferry up to this R&D place, did a deal with the MD there for exclusivity to the UK for 10 years. Michael's an ex-Bentley engineer, so he had his engineer mindset, was kind of looking at the thing, how it works. Just in case there wasn't a patent there, we might have developed our own thing. I'll do a deal with the MD. We come back, right? So here we are. We've got our solution. We know that the market's about to hit, right? Everyone's going to be up in arms about this salmonella on there, whatever else. Anyway, so then I bought a domain, registered a company called Washbox Solutions. I don't know if the website's still there. And then I thought, right, if the Watchdog episode is on a Monday, that means on Tuesday morning, every boardroom of every head office of a supermarket is going to be rammed with their team saying, right, solve this problem. So I developed a load of ads for Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at the time, and hyper-targeted them to every head office location around the UK, because I figured, well, whoever, like after that meeting, they're either going to go back to their desk and procrastinate, go to the toilet, or go for a cigarette, whatever. Either way, they're going to look at their phone. So we developed, right, everything's lined up. We've got a price in about 50p a trolley. There are millions of trolleys. They've got to do it weekly. This is a multi-million-pound opportunity. Watchdog episode comes out. Wasn't that damning, and they didn't have to govern it. The end. That's it. Yeah. If they had changed that legislation, that would have been a 10 to 12 million pound revenue business yearly with exclusive rights. I mean, it just, so again, fine, no worries. It's just a business. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't, so yes, failures galore within my journey. I've made some monumental fails. I've left so much money on the table. I've hired the wrong people. I've made investments in people and businesses and I've been ripped off. That's just how it is. That's just the world you live in when you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And that's how you learn, right? Because you never make the same mistake twice, I find.
Well, when you got self-awareness, you don't. In my earlier days, I didn't have quite the self-awareness I have now.
Oh, thank you. So when you look back on your, I guess, career / entrepreneurial journey, what would you call out as the high?
The first sale. The first contract we landed was a cleaning contract for an estate agency. It was worth £200 a month. It was like nothing. Bear in mind, we're now signing 6-figure deals on a regular. The buzz, that moment, you're like, someone bought something from me and they signed a contract to give me money on repeat for as long as the contract. I'm like, whoa, my eyes just woke up. Like I was like, okay, this is it. So I'd say the highest, from a business perspective, is that first few sales. The highest I have, the highest I felt from a personal point of view is, so Christine, my partner, seeing her develop as a leader and a CEO. Like when I describe entrepreneur and CEO, Christine's a CEO. Like she's a phenomenal leader. And seeing her overcome, chronic anxiety during the early days, she's been through a lot. So, a personal high is just the human development of others around me, and my relentlessness to see them succeed is a wonderful thing to take away from the last 7-8 years.
Thank you. And again, looking back on that journey, what's been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome?
Biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge is the biggest challenge I've had to overcome over the last 7 years, I would say, would be realizing again that I didn't fit in, and that was okay. So, you know, when you first get in a business, you go, oh, what have I got to do? I've got to network, right? So I end up in these awful 6 a.m. Networking meetings. I call it BIN. I think it's got another name. Chambers things. It was just stale, male, and pale is the best way I can describe a lot of these things. And I was like putting on my suit again. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I here? I don't belong in this environment with all of these people that are just like, everything's okay. And they're like, how's business? Everyone's like, yeah, business is good. And I'm like, well, actually, business isn't good for me. Why is everyone fine? No, because they all just put on this face. So I think realizing that I didn't fit in, and then when I finally embraced that and I put myself out there in a meaningful way for me to see other people like me, which are now thousands of us, that was a real kind of, I overcome some big barriers there personally to accept that don't matter. I don't need to fit in. I don't fit in. I never did. So why would I fit in here? So that was probably one of the biggest barriers to overcome.
Yeah. Thank you. So for somebody, actually, one more question on your journey. You've already mentioned one of your mentors. Can you talk to us about the importance of, mentors, role models, and how they've helped you on your journey?
Yeah, of course. Huge. So I think with mentors, I think everyone needs a mentor. I think everyone, we're all trying to become something else. We're all on a journey of growth in some form, whether it's an accidental one or a purposeful one. So I've always had mentors. Doesn't always have to be someone like this. It doesn't have to always be a one-to-one conversation. Like Simon Sinek, who's one of my favorite authors, is a mentor to me. I've learned so much from reading his content, from engaging with his events and stuff like that. Like I've learned a lot from him as a mentor. Direct mentors are absolutely crucial. So my current mentor, one of my current mentors, I've always got a couple on the go for various different things I'm doing, is a guy called John O'Brien. Now, John O'Brien is the founder of Anthropy, and which is a huge national gathering for leaders down at Eden Project once a year, which is phenomenal. He was the right-hand man to our now king for 10 years. So he'd rolled out enterprise programs through Prince's Trust across the whole nation. So here's a guy who has done everything I want to do. And I think that's the key thing with mentorship. You want to find someone that's doing or has done something you want to achieve, because that's the key thing that links the two of you, which is why I'm not a big believer in a lot of these programs, these kind of out of school programs where they assign a mentor. We don't do any assigning of mentors in our program work. The reason being that I believe the pursuit of a mentor is one of the greatest pursuits in life. And, you should take the time to really find, Christine's still, my partner, Christine, she hasn't got a mentor. She has people she looks up to. So she loves Sarah Blakely, for instance, like people like that. She's like, she has mentors in that sense, but she doesn't have that kind of one-to-one situation. She's still just trying to find that person. That's fine. For us, it's more around, that's why we assign coaches and facilitators, because assigning a mentor is like assigning a teacher. You don't know if there's going to be a connection there. So, I think really important part of your life is to find mentors that have been there and or are doing the things that you want to achieve. I think that's absolutely key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you make a really good point there. You don't, the mentor doesn't need to know they're your mentor. In the case of Simon Sinek, for example, it can be somebody that you admire from afar and learn from. And like you say, choose a mentor that has either done what you want to do or is, or has a really well developed skill that you want to develop. So I think they're crucial. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. So for anybody thinking, I'm sold, I want to go on an entrepreneurial journey, what would you say are the essential skills for a budding entrepreneur?
So self-awareness, first and foremost, you're going to push yourself like nothing else before. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. It's simple. It's really simple. It's not easy. So I think self-awareness, so that practice of self-love, that practice of self-awareness, the understanding of yourself and who you are is key. So I don't know what you would bracket that under, but essentially focusing on yourself. Resilience, learning to develop resilience for, hearing the word no and getting comfortable with hearing that word a lot, because you're going to need that. Today's world, I think, technically, I think technical skills, so digital technical skills are pretty much essential. With AI now, you can pretty much be a solopreneur up to about $1 million revenue these days, without the need to hire anyone. Not that fun on your own, only thing I'd say, but anyway. Resilience, digital skills for sure. Sales. No one talks about this word. It's like a dirty word.
Well, I was going to ask you about it, because a lot of people are scared of it.
It's just, I get it, but you, those that embrace that's probably 70% of it is learning to embrace sales, learning to understand the psychology of your market and your buyers. It's really important to do that. And I think embracing sales, and just start by selling something, like something, and in an area you never plan on going to. One of the things that kind of crosses the whole spectrum of what we've been talking about is the confidence, right? So if you're scared to network, so if you've got a fear around networking or standing up and talking about yourself or sort of thing, I would always say the same. Go book in at a networking event an hour and a half away from where you live that you never intend to go back again, and go and practice your pitch there. Go and build your networks over there, because you can leave it and never come back. So I think, to develop that confidence is finding ways to do that. And then the only other thing I'd say is on this is lifelong learning. I'm obsessed with my self-development. I'm obsessed to the point where, I spend at least an hour and a half to 2 hours every day focused on developing myself, whether that be reading, whether that be listening to podcasts, whether that be practicing copywriting, whatever I'm trying to do, I'll always be developing myself 7 days a week, like permanently.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, the sales is a really interesting one, isn't it? Because I think, like you say, I think sales is a dirty word, but you might have the best idea in the whole wide world, but if you can't sell it, no one's going to know about it.
I mean, it's just crazy to me that I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have a half decent product and the best sales team in the world than best product and no sales team. If you look at a profit and loss statement, everything starts from sales. If there's no sales, there's nothing else. So developing the skill sets and learn how to sell is a crucial skill in entrepreneurship. Crucial, regardless of who you are.
Yeah, and you can start small, can't you? You can go and work in a shop and sell things in a shop. You can, go and host a car boot sale and sell things there. Or one of my personal favorites, I love selling things on eBay. So, it's all developing that sales muscle, and you can start small and develop it slowly. And I think it's important to remember it is a skill that can be nurtured and developed over time.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. And I think, and it's not even just business. Go try and get a partner. Go try and get a date. You got to sell yourself. You've got to find ways to sell yourself, and whatever that looks like, whatever that means to you. Those that can will just have a better life than those that can't. As simple as that. Yeah.
All right. So, what does the future hold for entrepreneurship?
Well, I talked about social entrepreneurship earlier. I truly believe that the future of entrepreneurship is a social endeavor. I think everyone will be a community interest company before you know it, because you're already seeing it in the market. Beyond the greenwashing, there is a lot of greenwashing out there at the moment. I think that the tax incentives and everything that will come with ESG and the sustainability goals that are coming out of UN, I think before you know it, then all of our businesses within industry will be looking at how they report and make more social impact. So I think the future of entrepreneurship is one for the ones that care, one for the ones that want to make an impact in the world, and one for those that want to collaborate within industry to make an impact on the world. And I truly believe that is the future of the industry. And I hope that it will filter into education and they'll embrace entrepreneurship too, because that's what we need right now. We need more dynamic agility, innovation. We need young people to come into the world knowing that they are in full control of their outcomes. And entrepreneurship is the only subject that enables that across the board.
Great, thank you. Now, apart from this podcast and your organisations, Alex, where would you suggest somebody looks online to find out more about entrepreneurship? We've mentioned one great podcast already. Could you point to any other online resources?
There's a great project called the Purposeful Project. A good friend of mine, a guy called Simon Squibb, owns the Purposeful Project, and they've got a really good community there. I think the thing to remember when you're looking for support around entrepreneurship, anyone who's any good or has achieved any of this won't charge you. If they're charging you for it, it's the wrong product. Entrepreneurship is the most inclusive subject in the world. And if someone's selling how to be successful in business, they're not successful in business. So beware when you're out there. There's a lot of I call them instapreneurs, that are talking about it, but not actually amassed any success. So I would say do your due diligence, find humans first. So find someone who's impressive to you that you think, I'd love to learn from that person. Reach out to that person, ask them for their experiences and ask them for what ecosystems they hang around with. So I think that entrepreneurship as a subject can be learned by being curious about the world and asking the questions of where they came from, who bought it, who made it, why is it valuable. It's in here rather than out there.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned this earlier, Alex. Yes, read about it. Yes, learn about it. But sometimes we can procrastinate in the learning process. So it is actually important to take action and get doing, whether that's alongside it or early on.
Analysis paralysis, they call it, don't they? I think you've got to get out. It's like that in anything in life. I think you learn when you go do. So, I really do think one of the things, one of our products, when we do careers fairs and whatnot, we're working with young people, it works for adults too. We have a giant, we call it Curious Jenga. And on the Jenga, like in the Jenga blocks, as you're pulling them out, you have challenges, we have questions, statements, talking points. One of them is, sell this block within 60 seconds. So you have everyone trying to run around trying to sell a block. So just the simple stuff like that. I think you mentioned earlier, go work in a shop, go and work for a charity, or go, just get out there and learn in action, because that's where the real lessons are learned in life for sure. But you have to reflect on it. So it's really key that although you're going to go out there and find ways to make sure that you can reflect on that, because when you're not going to take the lessons in unless you're actually going to reflect on that.
Yeah. What went well? What could be better next time?
Yeah. How did I grow? Did I grow out through this process? Yes or no? That's the key.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Alex, what do you know now that you wished you'd known when you were just starting out and leaving school and hustling?
What do I know now that I wish I would have? The no's are more important than the yeses. It's all about the no's. Go get rejected on repeat, and the yeses are inevitable.
Okay, thank you. And what would you say to young Alex?
To young Alex, take your time. It's all going to happen. Take your time and breathe.
All right. Alex, I love inspirational quotes and mantras, and so I'm wondering if you have anything you'd like to share with the audience.
Oh, an inspirational quote. I do like a quote as well, actually. Yeah, one that I live by, actually, and it's on the wall in our office, which is, it's amazing what you can achieve when you don't care who takes the credit. And that's something I live by.
Yeah, that's really good, isn't it? It's a really good one. Thank you.
It challenges us as a society, especially British society, where it's all about status and me. When I've sat down with politicians before, and I've sat down with a few, I would often challenge them to say, are you more interested in the fact that this happened, i.e. this change in the world is happening, or that you did it? And if they hesitate on responding to that, then I'm out.
Yeah. I don't know why, but it's making me think of football. And I've I'm not like a massive football fan or anything, but since the Euros and then the women's Euros, I've got quite into supporting our teams. And it just makes me think about how they always call out the assists now. So it's not just the goal scorers,
yes.
It's the assists too. And I love that, because it's about teamwork, isn't it?
It is, and I think, it's interesting because football is comparable to business because it is a team game. Basketball, for instance, it is different. So in basketball, you are only as good as your best player. It's all about Michael Jordan. Surround Michael Jordan with a load of people that can run around for Michael Jordan. Whereas in football, you literally are only as good as your weakest link, which is why, when you get that one injury, it would be a left back, it doesn't matter. It's all about developing that way upwards. So it's a good lesson for life to always be focused on developing the weakest link rather than focusing all the energy on the top, which is quite a paradox when you think of entrepreneurship from the outside in. When you think of entrepreneurship, you think about the Elon Musks, these guys, but actually, if you dig deep into it, every single one of them will say, it wasn't me, it was my team.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Alex, this has been a super inspiring...
Maybe Elon might...
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry.
Maybe Elon wasn't the best example. Alex, this has been a super inspiring conversation. Thank you so much. And also thanks for being really open and honest with us about your journey. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and I can see why it helps the young people that you're trying to reach. So before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience?
No, just follow the journey, and if we can help in any way, if you reach out, then find us. You'll find us on Instagram and TikTok, Curious Entrepreneurs. And if you wanted to follow me personally, then Alex Hughes Shift on Instagram and on LinkedIn. Instagram is kind of like behind the scenes, day-to-day personal side of things. LinkedIn's probably, if you want to learn something, then maybe I'll share some insights on there. I'm not sure.
Brilliant. All right. Thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Thank you so much for joining Alex and I today. We really hope you enjoyed this episode all about entrepreneurship. If you gained any value today, please help us out. Share it with your friends, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have any questions, comments or suggestions, do get in touch with us. We love hearing from you. So we'll see you next time. Have a great week. 'Cause I find my way.